Hello, welcome to another 6 video about Spectacle of Spite. This one is going to be about our first impressions of Spectacle Spites in the team environment. A few weeks ago, we did one of Spectacle Spites from a single perspective and a bit of an overview of what it does, how it works. So go check that out if you haven't already. It will help with this video. Let's jump into this one. So what we'll cover today, we're going to cover the event that we went to. We like to, at 6++, not send out these reports without experience. So we thought we'd go to a Teams event and then do this video. So it's all based on real life experience. What our team comp was, why we chose Drukhari, what the matrix looked like for Drukhari, the list and the role that we chose for it, what the results were, and the key lessons at the end of it. So it's a breakdown of kind of the start, during, and what we're getting after it and where we're going to go from there. Okay, the event. So it was the Autumn International Team Tournament here in the UK. So it was on the UKTC terrain layout. It's got 3 standard boards, a light board, and a heavy board. These generally have very long shooting lanes and good staging, so it's something that Drukhari do quite like, no matter which board it is. It was a 5-man's team event. It was 5 rounds with a shadow round for the top 2 teams to determine the winner. And for board choice, it was after your first pairings, you roll off, the winner gets to pick board choice. And I believe it was the largest event in the UK, if not the world, for teams, which was, it was pretty interesting, pretty wild. Okay, our team composition. So we started from the top, and I had a couple of options for the faction that I was going to bring. So we'll work our way down, and we'll discuss why I chose Drukhari. So first up, like we said, long shooting lanes. We chose Modkar as our first defender straight up. He was always going to be our first defender. And then our next 2 choices were they built into themselves. We needed something that could play Modkar against Modkar on a light board. So what we had was a Sisters player and a Dark Angels player who was happy walking into that monstrosity of guns and coming out the other side and getting some points. Then we had 2 slots where we could actually choose what we were going to do. Because the heavy boards, we wanted 2 melee units. We had one of our players on Emperor's Children, and I had a choice between effectively Drukhari or Eldari. And from my point of view, we wanted 2 melee threats. In teams, it's always best to attack in pairs, and 2 melee and 2 shooting armies, and then a couple of flexes is the way to go. So we went with Drukhari, and I went for Spectacle of Spite over Reaper's Wager, unlike a lot of other players at the event. And we'll talk through that in the following slides. So, why Drukhari and the team role? So, Drukhari in Strength of Schedule, in Spectacle of Spite, is very all-comers. It can attack, it can defend fairly reliably if you play well. It's got amazing control over the fight phase. It's got all the OC that you want, and it's very fast. So even in your bad matchups, you can deny primary, keep those differentials close. Its matrix is all right into the top armies. So it's got some good wins. A major reason why we took this is it's good into Shadow Mark Talon. Those 10-man bricks of jump pack guys do nothing in this matchup, which can completely neuter their scoring and anything that they want to do and to push into you. It can play on any board. It doesn't particularly like the light board, but because of the strats that it's got and the speed, it's okay. It can blunt lists on light boards. And like we said, it pairs well with AC. And I think it's just a bit more stable than Reaper's Wager, purely because you have more units. You can just throw away those trash units, whereas Reaper's Wager is a little bit more elite, I feel. Okay, the Matrix. So this is where we had a decision point if we were going to go Reaper's Wager or Spectacle of Spite. On vibes, I was thinking Spectacle of Spite because I've been playing it a lot. But you're in a team environment, you can't go off vibes. Well, you can, but we wanted to do right by the team, so we did a little matrix. This isn't the whole matrix, but it's just what we thought we would be playing against, and that's what we're going to tech for. So you can see there that we've got 5 wins, 4 losses, and a draw predicted with Spectacle, and only 1 win against Reapers into kind of the big scaries that we're expecting to hit. From that, it's pretty straightforward that we are going to be running Spectacular Spite. Chaos Knights, we've got 3 armies that can absolutely maul that anyway, so it doesn't matter. Montcar and Admech, we've got 2 armies that can destroy that as well. So the losses in this, when you're looking at teams, if you have a loss but in reality you're never going to play it, it doesn't matter. I'll say as well, the Montcar matchup, if a team had Montcar at this event, they were going to be picking the light boards. I don't think it's always a loss for Spectacle in a singles world, but in teams on a light board, you are just getting shot off the board every game. So you have to kind of account for that when you're doing your matrix, thinking about what boards you are going to be playing on. Okay, the list that I decided on. So this was my singles list, effectively, because it was more of an all-comers role and a melee role. I decided to go with the all-comers so I could play as in the defender role and not just be absolutely run over by, say, armor spam and 2-up saves. So this is kind of a bit more of a balanced list. It's not the skew that you can do in teams. I think it's quite difficult in 5-man teams to do a full skew. So I decided to go with my singles list. So we covered this in our previous video, but we'll go through it again. So the Archon and 5 cabs and a Venom. I love this unit. It jumps out, does some chip damage, throwing grenades every turn, and when it wants to come in and punch something, it can pick up a unit or 2, can hop back in the Venom afterwards. It is great. I had Lady Malice. I've started running her solo. So I've found that when she had an attached unit, it was getting stuck at the back of the board. If it was Capitalites, if it was Incubi, I was finding she was wanting to hop back in. Her biggest strength is her redeploy and her Vectora, and she doesn't need the damage buff from anything else. So she is starting on the board almost every game for me as just a Vectora and as a late game melee piece that comes out turn 3, 4, 5 to go pick up a unit, because she can do that. Then just the 5 cabs from the Archon squad just to sit on a home objective, get it sticky, start moving up turn 3 to be a late game trade piece in the middle, just with its high OC. Lilith with 5 witches and a venom. There's some great little pockets on your expansion objectives where she just lives. I hate her. She does so little now without her rerolls, but she does enough to stop the enemy's trash from trying to stop you from scoring points, especially with a challenge met, where they can't flip those points with just an infantry unit because it'll just die. Then we had a Succubus with Morgana's Curse, 5 witches and a venom. This was kind of my hammer trade piece. The Succubus with Morgana's Curse just absolutely goes through any infantry with characters attached. She is an absolute weapon, and she's just a very good aggressive piece. Succubus with Fights First and 10 witches. Their job is to stand at your home just in front of the central objective and set up a challenge met and heroic interventions to try and secure you primary in the middle and force your opponent to send things out in multiple phases. 2x5 witches, just with the basic weapons, they start the trade game, do actions, all that good stuff. Some mandrakes for screening early for your infiltrates or your scouts, and for late game scoring if they survive that. A couple of Darklance Scourges, a 10 and a 5 Hellions. Almost every game the 10 started in Deep Strike for me. 2x3 Reavers, again, just great fast scoring. A Disintegrator Ravager, and 2 Talos. The Talos, again, just push into the middle. It lets the Fight First Succubus get a challenge met and heroic interventions off, and it just forces trades in the middle. And this was kind of my all-comers tech, where the Haywire just made those matchups where you have armor, which you generally struggle to get through. You can blink those 6-9 wounds with the Haywire, and it just makes your life a hell of a lot easier. Okay, the rounds and the results. I won't go into details with this, more the general game state and how the games flowed. So round 1, it was Tyranids, an invasion fleet. The mission was Terraform and Sweeping Engagement. It was a fairly monster-heavy Tyranids with a couple of melee pieces in there. I was put down as second defender, so they got choice. We lost the roll-off, so we picked a heavy board, so his Exocrines couldn't quite get the angles. I went second, so I could play a little bit more passive with the Witches And the Reavers, I could flip the terraforms back onto me to force his action economy to go down. An interesting point in this is I thought it was quite a good matchup. Turn 3, I think it was, turn 2 or 3. I was holding one of my expansion objectives with Lilith. I was set for a 15. Walked down my tables, and one of our players was looking like they were going to score a 0 in the differential. And another player was looking like a small loss, and it will look like we're going to lose the round. So I decided to push with Lilith out from her safe point where I was going to score probably a 15 and hold that objective the entire game to try and secure a 20. I made a small mistake here with my sequencing of charges. If I didn't make that mistake, it would have been a 20-0. And this is kind of, this game and the next game when I go through it is a testament to how much this army can swing from a very good position. And if you push and get anything wrong, it can swing your differential by 5+ points. So it was a good win. It was a safe win, but pushing, I got a little bit wrong and paid for it. And we got a win on the round, but it was a draw. So it was a points win, but a draw in the end because you have to have 5-point differential over. Necrons was the next one. So this was Necron Star Shatter. It had 2 Catan, and a brick of Lich Guards, a brick of Wraiths, and a whole heap of chaff around it. I was the second attacker, so I got picked by the Necrons. We got a standard board, and I lost for a 4-16. Purge is horrible against Necrons. It wasn't looking too bad, and again, like the first game, I misused my CP. I used a challenge met where I should have just saved my 2 CP for a heroic intervention, which probably cost me 3 or 4 differential points, which was unfortunate. But it was a play that I saw, it didn't quite go off, and I was trying to do too much, I think. Going first, especially in Purge, where you have to push into Necrons, which are just tough as nails, isn't ideal. But yeah, I would say this matchup this score at the end is not reflective of the matchup. It's a mistake I made effectively. So I wouldn't read into that too much, but these last two games just do highlight where things can go wrong and how quickly, where you just mismanage that one activation, that one CP spend, where you have to be really careful. The next round 3, was Death Guard. It was into the Virulent Vectorum on Hidden Supplies, Search and Destroy. He had Morty, he had Mini Morty, the little demon prince, and I went first. Again, going first, very difficult to push into Death Guard, so it was very much just it was always going to be a draw, effectively. I had more resources than him. He had some big resources. I had a high OC that I could just throw into points and deny primary. When we talked through it, it was just a draw game. I eventually killed Morty with some lucky Dark Lancers that I just didn't expect to happen, but it happens sometimes with Dark Lancers. They are the swingiest things of all. We hate to bring them, but we have to bring them. And yeah, it was just a standard game of we knew exactly what was going to happen, and what we thought was going to happen exactly did. Emperor's Children. So this is Coteries. Double Demon Prince, double Noise Marines. I would have this down as a draw, but because there was only 2 Demon Prince and 2 Noise Marines, I thought it was going to be a win. Triple Demon Prince, triple Noise Marines is generally a very bad time for Drukhari, but you can manage the 2 generally. So for this one, I was set down as the second attacker into Emperor's Children. I think it was Drukhari and Dark Angels were his choices, and Emperor's Children do not like Dark Angels, so I was always getting that, how we set up the pairings. It was a close game. We both had some wild swings of luck. I think this game, again, is always going to be a draw, and I just went second, so I got the 11-9, is effectively what happened. The Demon Princes, I was tabled turn 5, but I denied enough points to stop it from happening, anything from happening. I had, I think the differential was 13 or 14 going into turn 4, and then I just ran out of assets. But the damage was done, and I got the small win for that. And we got the win on the round, I believe. Last game was Votan Needguard. So Needguard, I wasn't sure what it was, but it's just the index, renamed, rebadged, on Take and Hold and Search and Destroy. I went into their first defender, which was the Votan. I'm sure he was after the light board. We didn't end up on the light board. We were on the standard board, and I got a 14-6 win going second. So for this, he was effectively stuck in his deployment zone because he wasn't aggressive enough. I could just feed units out to deny primary, score secondaries, and stop him from scoring secondaries. He was quite a chunky list with 2 land forts and some of the new big robots. But he just got stuck. And I could take advantage of that and do the Drukhari things of stopping him from taking my expansion with Lilith, and just denying his primary and denying his scoring by tagging things, and challenge met to stop actions happening. Just all the tricks, and it was just a fairly straightforward game from a defensive point of view going second. Okay, so key lessons from the end of it. Strength of schedule. I keep saying that because I'm used to seeing it in BCP. Spectacle of Spite can be built to be a very effective blunter and all-comers. So when we did the design, we looked at it and went, you know what, let's just get something that can play almost everything and avoid the matchups where we have 2 or 3 other armies that can just take them away. It pairs very well with EC. So like I said at the start, when you go through your pairings, if you have 2 armies that can cause pressure melee, be very fast and just cause problems and stop scoring, if you can attack in pairs, it stops your opponents from using them as defenders because they'll just get stuck, and you'll get a good matchup into it. The problem with this is because they both have a very similar archetype, it means you're competing for a spot with them generally. We didn't for this one, but in other compositions, you could look at it and go, well, Drukhari do what Empress Children do at the moment, but just a little bit worse, unfortunately, because we don't have Wind Demon Princes. Those things are crazy. So there's the kind of the downside of it, but it does pair well with melee pressure. You need a lot of experience to navigate the army and teams. You can't. It's not an army where you can just throw a player onto it and expect to do well, because there's so many failure points when you mismanage your movement, CP, or pain tokens. It's very unforgiving, as we say below. And the output, it's got good output, but it's so unreliable. Now we don't have rerolls, and in most places, it can just do nothing sometimes. And you need, when you do set up your plays, you just need to make sure that you can recover from it. And if you do bounce, it doesn't just crumble and you end up being 20-0'd. Mistakes can be punishing. We talked about that. Pushing play is very difficult because of how squishy we are. Trying to push your differential high up into the 20s can be very difficult. We saw in my first game against the Tyranids, I tried to push and effectively cost me 3 to 5 differential points when I made one mistake out of it. So it can be very difficult. If you do get the right matchup, it can be absolutely brutal, but it can be difficult in 5s. And that kind of goes on to my last point, which is in 8-man's teams, I think you can design to go more specialized into the push role. So, for example, you can drop the Talus. That frees up 160 points for more units that are fast, that can push. You can get that second 10-man Hellion brick in. You can drop the Archon probably and get some more Witches in, maybe a Raider. And you can get all these extra go-forward push pieces, which you can't do if you're worried about hitting knights or things with heavy armor. And I guess the biggest upside is defensive play is just reliable with them. If you play well, you can just score minimum your 10s because your opponent finds it very hard to push into you with the challenge met, heroic intervention, and fights first everywhere, and the speed. You can steal their home objectives. You can do all the tricks. You don't particularly need to kill them some of the time. You just need to keep it close. All right, that is it for the end of the video. If you want more content like this, like, subscribe, put some comments in here. Let us know how you guys are finding Spectacle of Spite. If you've had any experience in teams, maybe you've had some different lessons. We've got Discords, we've got coaching, we've got all kinds here at 6++. All right, till next time, we'll see you later. Bye.